Welcome to Small Arms Solutions. Today we're going to be looking at some clones of the M16A4 rifle. Many who've served over the last 20 years have carried the M16A4, whether it was the U.S. Army or the Marine Corps. In more later days, the Marine Corps has been using it far more than any other branch. There are several different ways to go about getting a clone. There's, for instance, getting the parts and building them. I'm showing you a few different options here on building M16A4 clones. One of the models was one that was basically pieced together. Another one came directly from the factory, and another one was partially from the factory but required a lot of modifications. We're going to be going over these rifles very, very closely to look at the fine details of what would make them closer to an M16A4 than the others. But there's some really good options. The first one that we're going to start with is actually manufactured by FN. Is their military collector series, and it's an A4. In this configuration here, what you see here is exactly the way that it comes from the factory. If you're looking to go to a one-shop stop to purchase an exact duplicate of the M16A4, this is absolutely your best bet. It is very detailed, right down to the UID codes. We're going to go over some of the specifics on this rifle that make it extremely close, and some of the differences. So what we're going to do is we're going to go from butt to muzzle on here, and we're going to go over each of the individual components. This is the FN Collector Series. Again, this rifle you buy just as is. If you were looking for a one-shop stop, not having to worry about buying anything other than maybe buying the correct optic that goes on it, this definitely is the way to go. If you look, we have the ambidextrous selector on it. Now, I have to say I have not seen this on any A4s before. This is part of the M4 PIP program, which they actually recently canceled, but it was ambidextrous controls. For the M4, it was actually the ambi magazine release as well as the safety. Okay. This rifle does not have the ambidextrous magazine release, but it does have the ambidextrous safety. We can also notice we have the FN UID code, which has the FN's factory code, which is 3S679, their part number, and their proper serial number. And their barcode on here, if you were to hit on that with your smartphone, it would take it to the FN web page. It does come with a proper proper nice armament RAS system. It comes with a full set of rails. As you can see, this is actually complete. It has all the rails on it. The barrel itself, again, it cannot be marked the U.S. government. If it was marked U.S. government, it would say FNMI, and then it would say MP 556.801/7. Due to them not being able to do that, this is actually a commercial barrel, which has the stylized FN. This is still, it's not a what you would expect from FN for as far as a cold hammer forged barrel. As per mil spec, they did keep with going with the button cut rifling, but again, there was a difference in the way that they had to mark that. Looking on the left side, this is one of the biggest differences in the way this is marked. Instead of having the traditional stylized FN, this is the actual FN military mark. They call it the football mark. So you have the actual FN mark. You'll see everything else is traditional. And you also see that this is actually made in Fredericksburg, Virginia. All the U.S. military guns are manufactured by FNMI in Columbia, South Carolina. Due to the fact that that's where the TDP and the military guns are made, according to my research anyways, they could not build these at the same facility where they had the same components as the U.S. government. So this is FN USA, which is out of Fredericksburg, Virginia, where these particular guns are made themselves. So as you see, it does come with the Motec backup sight. When you go back over to here, you'll see that you do have a forging code, but you don't have FN's code on here like would be required as per military spec. And then looking in the inside, bolt carrier groups, those are also not marked with any of the U.S. government marks. As you can see, that's clean on the side, where if that was a U.S. government one, it would have the FN on the side. Now this is marked MPI, so it was particle inspected, but it's not the U.S. government mark. The U.S. government mark would be MPF. So again, these were things that FN was not at liberty to do because they don't own the TDP. So this gun here would be built as a commercial rifle, aside from what they do for the U.S. government. Those are very fine details that unless you were really, really looking, you would not be able to find. But overall, this is a really awesome rifle for somebody who just wants this one-shop stop and gets it the way that it is. FN also offers a collector series in the M4 carbine as well, which is also, for as far as configuration, probably even nicer than the LE6920 in the fact that it has an actual 14.7-inch barrel with a pinned-on compensator. So you get more of that, the actual look to it. This version here actually was built by me from components. Aero Precision actually has a very interesting receiver, which is actually marked on the left side, property of USA, model M16A4, cal 5.56 millimeter. When we get it in a little bit more close, we're going to take a look at some of the markings on here. But this rifle here is composed of a standard A2 stock, the Aero Precision upper and lower receiver, a Colt bolt carrier group. We added a M5 RAS system to it. We don't have the additional rail panels or the vertical pistol grip for this particular model. And this barrel is actually a standard Bushmaster barrel. It does not have the F-mark front sight post, but it's not too hard to find upper receivers that do have that. But this is a very good basic version of the M16A4. It did not cost a lot of money. This is probably under $1,000 for as far as what it cost to build it. This rifle here was basically built part by part by me. The lower receiver was actually manufactured by Aero Precision. As you can see, you have safe, semi, and burst on the right side. And you have the little notch on there. Those were parts that I custom got for it, but it's pre-engraved. And now we look over to the other side. We'll see more of a military type Aero Precision logo, property of USA, model M16A4, cal 5.56 millimeter. And if you look at this, the markings here, safe, semi, burst. So it would be as a traditional A4. Now this is also a KAC RAS system. You can see it's got sort of a purplish color to it. These are the ones that this came out of a store down in Florida, law enforcement. I forget the name of it, where they basically get a lot of nice reject stuff. As you can see, this is actually purple in color. It's not black, so they sell them a lot cheaper than they do the original, proper RAS systems. I do have the guards on the three sides here. I don't have the full set of guards for it. This barrel is not an A4 barrel. This is an A2 barrel. There's no F-mark front sight base. And this is a standard Bushmaster barrel. And in the inside, the bolt carrier group itself. This is actually a standard Colt bolt carrier group that I put in there, which you can actually see the C. And then you can see the MPC on the bolt itself. So again, this was built this way. This is probably the most economic way to do this. This is definitely under $1,000. And if I recall, Aero Precision offers that they'll build you this complete rifle with their components. It's really very reasonably priced. So you basically would have an Aero Precision bolt carrier group, and all the other components would be from Aero Precision. And I do believe the barrel would even be from Aero Precision too, because they make their own barrels. So this is definitely a good option. Again, I built this one. I just got the upper and lower receivers, and then I assembled it all with components. But this is also a very good representation of the M16A4. This rifle here perhaps is the closest to a U.S. military one out there. However, this one was highly modified. This was based on the Colt AR-15A4 rifle. As this rifle comes from the factory, it does not come with a RAS system. It does not come with the optic. It does not come with the Maytech backup sight, and it does not come with the stock or the magazine holder. It comes as a basic round handguards, and it comes with a detachable carrying handle. As this rifle comes from the factory, there are some interesting things about it. Oddly enough, the AR-15A4 was not a new idea. Back in 2008, 2009, while I was working at Colt, Colt had not been producing any of the military type long rifles. They were all the Max Target series. At that time, Ken Elmore, who was actually he was an armor instructor for Colt, I'm not sure if he was at that time or not, But he had come to Colt with already having investors who wanted to build, if I believe it was 500 rifles and 500 uppers. And he brought in a drawing where actually it said on it AR-15A4. And it was a well over $1 million contract. At that time, Colt had not done anything with AR-15A4. It wasn't even a concept. They had not done any of the the A4 type rifles whatsoever. However, at that time, Colt was very much involved with their government contracts, and I can remember one of the Colt executives saying, "Nobody's going to tell us how to mark our rifles," and then he said they wouldn't do it. So they said no to well over $1 million+ of money that Ken Elmore had already secured to build these rifles for him, marked AR-15A4. So now we step down probably around 2000. I'd say around 2014 is about the time when Colt decided to introduce the AR-15A4 as a A4 type rifle. Except for when Colt did it, is talking to one of the Colt marketing guys, it wasn't designed to be exactly an A4. There were several changes that were made to it. For instance, the rifle again did not come with an M4 RAS system. It did not come with any of the optics or anything. The details such as the barrel extension and the upper receiver, to be a proper A4, it would be a rifle barrel extension and a rifle upper receiver, meaning it wouldn't have any of the feed ramps that were cut. Well, the AR-15A4 does in fact have that. It has a standard M4 upper receiver and M4 receiver or barrel extension. Excuse me. For as far as the barrel was concerned, several of the versions that I have seen did not have the proper front sight base. They should have the F mark front sight base. These were standard A2 type barrels. And also from actually some things I saw on the internet, we'd found that there had been some improperly marked barrels too. They were marked H bar 1/9" twist H bar, but then you take the handguards off and everything, you'd see, wait a minute, this is a standard government profile barrel. So it wasn't exactly that configuration. This rifle here actually was put together, it was based on the AR-15A4. However, this upper receiver is not the one that came with it. This upper receiver I've had since my book Black Rifle 2. When I was working on it, it came from Colt, and it was a government production M16A4 upper receiver. So it is built completely properly. It has a standard government profile barrel, the F-mark front sight post. It has the proper, there's no feed ramp extensions in it whatsoever. So that was changed. And also with this rifle, it came with the standard GI Maytech or Matech, whatever you want to call it, rear backup sight, which is U.S. government issue. The handguards. This is a regular M5 Knights Armament RAS system with all the rail protector panels as well as the broom handle. And as you can see, I have an Insight Tech flashlight on it. This is the government issue stock, one issued by the Marine Corps, that has the actual barrel. It's a 2-point itself. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at some of the markings as well. This rifle here, although that it didn't come this way, with the few modifications that I did to it, is the closest in detail to all three of these to the U.S. mil spec. And mainly that's because it's made by Colt. Colt can mark these guns any way that they want. They're not dealing with anybody else's TDP. They own the TDPs for these. Looking at the Colt rifle, the only thing that looks out of place is it doesn't have one of the UID codes. The UID codes are actually quite easy to come by. You can actually have those made up. Go online, look up UID codes, and they can be made. They usually have the cage code, which for Colt actually is 13629. Part number, this is actually the part number of the M16A2 rifle, and the serial number is actually the serial number of this particular rifle. Basically, you'll degrease the side of the receiver and remove the adhesive off the back and stick it right on there, and that's really all that it takes to it. But looking at some of the details on here, the stock's not really remarkable, but you'll notice you have the Colt mark and the forging code, which would be as per mil spec. You also have the safe and fire on here. Again, with the Colt, I had to replace the the selector, because the selector lever has no notch on it that indicates on the right side its mode of safety. I do believe I covered this in a previous video, but we'll say it again. This is actually something I accomplished myself when I was at Colt. Basically, every manufacturer who was out there was putting safe and fire on the right side, but Colt. So I put in two engineering request changes. One was to actually have it stamped on the right side, safe and fire, and the second one was to actually have the notch cut in the selector lever. In Colt's infinite wisdom, they decided to approve the one for the roll marks, but they denied the one for the selector. They claimed the selector lever was removable. You actually could unscrew the pistol grip, release the latch, pull it out, flip it over to the other side, and it was safe and fire. Well, yeah, it's all well and good that it does that, but you have no way of being able to tell from the opposite side whether it's in the mode safe or fire. But that was made by people who were much higher up in the ranks than I am. Looking again on the right side, this is the actual Marine Corps issue Trigicon scope, 4-power. It has tritium. It has fiber optic as well, for as far as being able to illuminate the reticle. M5 RAS system, and if we look at the actual barrel itself, the barrel is marked the U.S. mil spec CMP556 NATO 1/7. Colt meaning C meaning Colt, MP mag particle inspection. The fact this is a 5.56 NATO barrel, which has a 1 7-inch twist. And then when we look at the opposite side, you may or not be able to see. There's actually the F mark front sight post. And then when we look over here at the actual markings on the receiver itself, see Colt AR-15A4. So again, this was Colt's later version, the lower receiver that came with it. The other details are on the bolt carrier itself. You will see that there is actually a C on the bolt carrier, which is required by mil spec to identify the manufacturer of the bolt carrier, which would be Colt. And you may or may not be able to see the bolt is actually marked MPC, which means magnetic particle and proof tested Colt, which is the other mil spec. So all in all, the way this rifle was built up here, this here would be as identical as you could possibly make it for an M16A4 rifle with Colt. And again, they are able to put these markings on them because they are the owner of the TDP. They are the owner of the rights to be able to do it. Anybody else who would try to do the similar thing would not be able to, because, for instance, we're going to take a look at the FN rifle. FN is not the originator of the TDP, so therefore they can't use their technical data they use for the M16A4 rifle to manufacture their commercial rifle. Depending on how much money you want to spend or how attention you want to be to details, you're going to determine which is the way that you would want to go for as far as this is concerned. I probably would go with the FN because it's the same way that it's already in its proper configuration. Then just purchase the sling and then go with the optic. Because again, these other two were custom built. The Colt, again, you do have those proper markings on them, but if you want it to be exact, you're going to be doing a lot of work from the way you buy the AR-15A4. It's not saying that for as far as like the barrel extension is concerned. I mean, in reality, that's probably an enhancement over the standard rifle. But again, someone like me, who I'm very detail oriented, that was sort of a problem for me, and also it was a problem for me they didn't have the proper front sight base on there also. So a lot of work went into this. How I probably would say that this one here is worth right now is well over a couple $1,000s, majorly just because of the optic itself. But the rifle itself, the upper receiver was completely different from the one that came with it. But if you don't care about those details, you can certainly go buy a standard AR-15A4, add the M5 RAS to it, your optic. I'm not even sure that the the AR-15A4 even comes with this optic anymore. The one that I got actually came with a carrying handle. I've seen some photos on the internet of it with Magpul backup sight on them, so I'm not quite sure what they are doing with it right now. It's definitely always subjected to change. But if you're interested in the A4, there's definitely a lot of options. It's a very sweet shooting rifle. It's as reliable as can be. All three of these are 100% reliable. I have fired them in the past. Haven't fired them more recently due to an unfortunate accident. But if you guys have any questions on these, certainly leave a message, and I'll try and get back to you. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please click like and please subscribe. Thank you.